We're going to be looking at the best transfers ahead of Game Week 6 and ranking the most transferred in players from S tier all the way to D tier. Hi guys and welcome to the video. My name's the FPL chairman and this is my most transferred in tier list video. If you like the content, make sure you do like and subscribe as it massively helps me out. Let's get straight into the video. Our first transfer in that we're going to be looking goes into the A tier, which is goodbye, is Julian Alvarez. Alvarez has consistently been performing, getting attacking returns. He's someone who hasn't been in my team, and every single week I think, is he going to get the minutes? Is he going to get the points? And he's been Mr. Consistent in terms of attacking returns, getting assists, not popping on the goals as much, but still with the amount of assists that he's getting for Manchester City, he's a great asset. Under 7 million for a forward, where I think the forward position is a position that is really lacking in terms of quality at the moment. And Julian Alvarez is definitely someone who can fill that number 2 role if you are like a lot of FPL managers who are going for the 3-5-2 formation at the moment. 2 City forwards seems the way to go, and based on the last few game weeks is where the points are as well. So Julian Alvarez is our first option. James Ward-Prowse is going into our B tier, which is optional. For me, this is the sort of the tier which is more of a luxury. If you have 2 free transfers, your team doesn't need a lot of work doing to it, and you want to go for this sort of player. I personally wouldn't be going for James Ward-Prowse because I think, even though he is popping up on the points and obviously managed to get points with the West Ham game against City, for me, there's still better options in that midfield, and midfield is really a position where there are a lot of players who are really performing at the moment. Don't get me wrong, James Ward-Prowse has had points and is doing well, but I think there are better options than James Ward-Prowse. The West Ham fixtures also are a bit hit and miss. Liverpool away in the next game week, Sheffield United, which is a good fixture, then Newcastle, then Aston Villa. They're not easy fixtures, so it's not someone that I would be looking to move to at the moment. And Mbemu goes into the A tier along with Julian Alvarez, really consistent. Obviously didn't get on the points against Newcastle. However, Brentford still looked threatening. And Mbemu was always up in the final third. He obviously didn't get as many big chances as, for example, Wissa. But for an under £7 million midfielder who can enable you to go for the higher price tag midfielders like Saka, Rashford, Son, he's a great person to have in your team. And I expect the points still to come. The next player is Mo Salah, the 4th most transferred in player ahead of Game Week 6. He has been Mr. Consistent as well, registering an attacking return in every single game week. Obviously coming up off a 10-point game week, Hall in Game Week 5. Unlucky not to get 3 assists based on the decision in terms of an own goal with the Harvey Elliott assists. But if you take a look at the Liverpool fixtures that are coming up, West Ham, Spurs, Brighton, that sort of Game Week 9 onwards, even Brighton away to be fair, I think Salah is clearly getting the minutes still. He's getting the attacking returns. It just comes down to whether can you fit him in your team with the price tag, and do you want to go with United assets or Spurs assets like Son and Rashford and Maddison more than Mo Salah. I definitely think going forward it's going to be a real dilemma for people who are looking to wildcard to maintain Erling Haaland in their team and also Mo Salah, because I think Mo Salah is a brilliant option going forward in terms of game weeks. So I would put him down as a good buy if you can obviously afford him and fit him in your team. Odsonne Edouard for Crystal Palace, obviously getting another goal against Aston Villa in their 3-1 defeat away. I actually think he's a good buy, and this really boils down to, it's not the fact that I think Crystal Palace are playing well, because I don't think they're playing exceptionally well. I think they're doing okay. I think they'll play better when people like Elise and Franca start playing and getting minutes and coming back from injury. But in terms of his price point, in terms of 6.5 million, I think he's a good option compared to other people around there. You've got the likes of Wissa. You do obviously have the higher price point forwards like Watkins, Wilson, Isaac. But if you're someone who doesn't want to opt into the 2 City forward formation, I still think in terms of a points return, he'd be a good buy. People may disagree with that, but based on his current form, I don't see why not. It just depends on your preference, whether you want to go with 2 City assets and take that option, or you want to have a slightly differential because his ownership is incredibly low. So for me, goes in good tier. Maddison going into the B tier for optional. If you look at Spurs next game week, Arsenal, Liverpool, I wouldn't say it's the right time to be bringing in Maddison. If you were going to be bringing him in, it was for the Sheffield United fixture. Obviously, that turned out how it did with Richarlison getting on the points. He is a great attacking option. He does operate in the final third. He is the set-piece taker for Spurs. There are lots of positives around Maddison, but in terms of should you buy him now going into game week 6, for me, that's not the right move. So I'd say optional if you want to hedge your bets and you think Arsenal and Liverpool are going to be high-scoring games for Spurs. But for me personally, it wouldn't be something I'd necessarily look to do. And personally, for my team, it's not something I'm going to be doing. Mitoma also goes into the B tier for 2 reasons, really. I think Brighton are still looking incredibly great as a team, getting wins where perhaps we didn't expect it. For example, away at Manchester United. He is obviously a threat on goal. However, I think, again, it's more of a luxury transfer if you want to bring him in. If you need to free up money for other players that are more expensive, similar to James Ward-Prowse, similar to Mbemo, he's a great enabler for that. However, their next 4 fixtures are really difficult. Not bad fixtures against Bournemouth. I would expect points there. But Aston Villa, Liverpool, City are by no means easy fixtures. And I don't think they're going to be weeks where he's going to be generating a lot of points. And I think there are better options in the midfield, especially around that price point as well. So I think if he's optional, if you need the money to spend elsewhere. But I wouldn't look to make a transfer just for Mitoma. Botman goes into the S tier. Newcastle coming off a clean sheet at home to Brentford. I think Newcastle defenders are brilliant and excellent in terms of FPL assets. They are the most nailed on, I believe, in terms of minutes out of the Newcastle players. You look at their attackers in Newcastle, and there's a lot of players who can operate in different positions. I went into this in my most recent video in terms of must-sell players tier list. I think the defenders, for the price they're at, Botman at 4.5 million, expected to rise. He's a fantastic option, and I think Newcastle will pick up clean sheets. You look at the fixtures: Sheffield United away, Burnley at home, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Wolves. They're all great fixtures, and they're all fixtures that Newcastle should be able to maintain clean sheets again. Obviously, do I think they're going to get clean sheets in all 5 games? No, but I think they're a good option. Especially also Botman getting on to set pieces as well from the likes of corners. I think he could be a really good option. So for me, if you have a transfer and you don't know who to make, I definitely would invest in him. A lot of players who have Chilwell, for example, and Chelsea have been really underwhelming. So I think if you're looking to take a player out and defence is where you're looking, I think Botman, for the price he's at and the consistent points that I believe Newcastle will achieve, he's a great option. Free up money, invest it elsewhere into the midfield, for example. Look to invest it into Mo Salah. These are the sorts of dilemmas that FPL managers will be facing. Next player, again, my butcher name is Udogie. I would say avoid 2 really tough fixtures, like I mentioned, in terms of Maddison in Liverpool and Arsenal. Yes, he can get on the attacking returns and has done in previous game weeks, but do I think he's the right option now? No. I know a lot of players bought him in for game week 5 against Sheffield United. That didn't work out, so I would stay clear. Trippier also goes into the S tier, another Newcastle player. Exactly the same reasons, Botman. The fixtures, he's on set pieces, corners, free kicks from both sides as well. We saw in the game against Brentford, he wasn't just taking free kicks from the right-hand side, he was going all the way across the left-hand side. Obviously had a very dodgy free kick early on in the game, but he's on set pieces. He operates very high up the final third, and he is the person who is delivering the crosses into the box for the likes of Wilson or Isaac. 6.5 million, yes, he's one of the most premium defenders in the game, but I think he can deliver points. Coming off an 8-point week, for game week 5 is an indicator in terms of what points he is able to get, and the fact that he's on set pieces and everything as well all contributes to bonus points as well. So definitely one to invest in, definitely one to buy. So in the avoid for me, Chelsea's performance. 2, Reece James returning from injury. I think his time is done. If you had him and you managed to capture his double digit haul, brilliant. But in terms of a player that you want your team going forward, he's not the right one. So I would avoid. The next player is Romero. Exactly the same reasons as Udogie. Don't need to spend too much time on this one, but I think the time for getting in Spurs cheap assets in the defence is gone. There's better options in Newcastle. Diaby goes into the optional tier for me. Looked really threatening in the Aston Villa game. Villa have great fixtures going forward, probably after Chelsea, but I mean, it's Chelsea and they're playing really poorly at the moment, so there's every single possibility that they can get points there. But the fixtures forward from that, Brighton, Wolves, West Ham, Luton, Forest, are all great fixtures for Villa, and I think we are going to see, and really monitor how well Villa perform in these fixtures, and especially the likes of Diaby, Watkins, Cash. I think they're all great options for future FPL teams and future potential wildcards as well, especially if you're looking to make a wildcard in the week 6 and week 7. I think he's a good option. I don't think he's essential because, like I said, I think there are good options around that price point in Mbemo. But if you are looking for a differential and someone to really move up the ranks with, as a lot of players won't have, I think he's a great option. And the last and final player is Robertson, obviously coming off a decent game week 5 for Liverpool. I think there are plenty of better options at defender than Robertson. I wouldn't go chasing the points and knee-jerking into Liverpool defenders. I think it's been clear that a lot of FPL managers have avoided players like Robertson this FPL season so far because there are better options. Like I said, Newcastle defenders should be your absolute target. I think chasing Liverpool defenders is the wrong decision to make. So I would choose to ignore his points haul and look to go elsewhere. So I would say don't follow the crowd, avoid and focus on Newcastle players. So guys, that is my must-buy Game Week 6 tier list. Again, if you enjoyed this sort of video, enjoyed this content, please give it a thumbs up and a like. Really appreciate it. And if you do enjoy this content that I'm putting out at the moment, it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe. Trying to put out the content as much as I can, really enjoying it as well, and obviously interacting with you guys as well. So good luck for Game Week 6. Hope this video was insightful for you, and I'll catch you next time.